It is pointless to resist.
Take it easy.
Today is Wednesday, October 18th, and the Yankees are not playing in the postseason, but that doesn't mean they're quiet. Word out of New York is that they are serious about landing Juan Soto this winter, and they could be the favorites. Plus, we've got an analytical discussion with Aiden Bechamps of Fireside Yankees. This is NYY Recaps.
Welcome to Yankee Stadium.
New York City.
Just when they thought I was out, they pull me back in.
All right. Joining me tonight is Aiden Bechamps. Did I say that right? I said it
That's
wrong.
correct.
I said it wrong in the intro, so that's my bad. I had someone tell me once, never make fun of somebody if they pronounce something wrong because that means they learned it by reading it. So there you go. So welcome aboard. Appreciate it.
Good to be here.
All right, so let's start with the rumor, obviously, that's out there. We're going to get to a few topics, but Juan Soto's kind of been the Yankee, topic of late. Jim Bowden says the Yanks are favorites to land him if he becomes available. I do think they will be very aggressive. He proposes Michael King, Johnny Brito, Everson Pereira, and Oswald Peraza as the package going to San Diego. So 2 questions. First of all, do you think that's fair for both sides? Is that a move you would make if you were San Diego and if you were the Yankees? And do you even think that they're actually going to move Soto? Because I'm not convinced.
I think that is a pretty fair package both ways. I think the Padres would probably look to shed some payroll because that's what they're looking to do this offseason. So, they would probably add a guy like, I don't know, maybe Jake Cronenworth, and we'd pay half of the rest of that contract, or maybe even Matt Carpenter. Who knows? Maybe that would be a nice little return. But I think that's a fair return on the Yankees side. I would probably sweeten it up a bit more. But the Padres are looking for young major league starting pitching talent. And, the Yankees have exactly that on the MLB level and the minor league level. So guys like Clark Schmidt, Michael King, Chase Hampton, Drew Thorpe, even Brito and Vasquez, I think would, make perfect sense for the Padres.
Yeah, so if they want Clark Schmidt, first of all, I'll drive him across the country myself. Save him on the airplane flight. I'm hesitant about Mike King, just because of what we saw as a starter down the stretch. I mean, he looked every bit the ace that Garrett Cole was over the last. Not the last start, but I'd say the 3 starts before that, he was phenomenal. What'd you think about Mike King?
I thought he was great. I love Mike King. I was a bit skeptical at first of having him start, but he just kept proving himself. He kept showing his worth. He started to go longer. I mean, there were times where he'd only throw like 4 or 5 innings, but he started to get into the 6th inning. And then he had that one stellar game where he had 14 strikeouts. And I really do think the Yankees are trying to make him a starting pitcher for next year. The only question is, can he have a full season of 150, 170 innings, because we haven't seen that from him before. And he did just, have that elbow injury. So who knows?
I think if the Yankees do move Mike King, or for that matter, Mike King and Clark Schmidt, or, even Nestor Cortez, if they move any of their prominent starting pitching for Soto, I definitely think that opens them up for Yamamoto, who we know Cashman likes. They wouldn't fly around the world, basically, fly to the other side of the planet, to watch the guy if they weren't actually interested. And there's that iconic photo that is, if they sign him, it's going to be on every telecast where he's Yamamoto's waving to the crowd after the no-hitter and Cashman is up giving him a standing ovation, big grin on his face. I got to say, that got me a little pumped up. What were you thinking when you saw that?
Me too. The guy's nasty. I don't know if you watched the WBC, but he was pretty fun to watch in the WBC too. The game Cashman went to, it was a no-hitter. So the guy put together an amazing outing. He has nasty stuff. He's supposedly one of the best pitchers in the NPB. And even since Cashman went, he's been sending his top-level scouts, top-level execs to games since. Yeah. So I think the interest is real, and I think they're probably the biggest player in his market.
Okay, so now that we know that we can, but theoretically backfill a spot if we go out and make this trade, let's say you're the GM for a day and San Diego calls up and says, okay, we'll give you Soto. There's no negotiating window. You don't get to, have this exclusive thing. It's, I'm hanging up the phone if you say no and I'm calling Boston. That package of King, Brito, Pereira, and Peraza for Soto, and if you say yes, what's next? What do you do to because that's a lot of guys you got to replace.
Absolutely. I would absolutely make that move because I honestly think that package should be sweeter. I think, I don't know how excited they would be about Brito or Peraza, but like honestly, I would almost, if I'm the Yankees and I'm making an offer and I need them to say yes, I'm giving them Clark Schmidt, Michael King, Chase Hampton, and Everson Pereira. Just give them the young starting pitching that they want and give them Pereira, a guy who can slot into left field for the Padres, who has been a top prospect for the Yankees for a little bit, and all metrics show he mashes the ball. So I think that makes a ton of sense.
So this might be one of those great places for us to kind of have one of those Irish debates there where, you are in the generation of the analytics. I know Fireside Yankees is heavy on analytics. I'm a guy who goes more by the eye test, and to me, he had no clue what to do on a breaking ball. So other scouts have to see that, right? I mean, what are the metrics saying that I'm missing? Because to me, it just looked like I saw some good hard contact, but I saw way too many whiffs.
I mean, I think that's really just, yes, he mashes the ball. When he makes contact, the ball just flies off his bat. Even the numbers in the minor leagues will tell you that. He hit a ton of home runs. I think the problem really has been, that breaking ball, because I think when minor leaguers are brought up to the major leagues, the biggest adjustment they have to make is those breaking balls, because there's probably a ton of more break on those pitches. So, the guy's 22 years old. We only saw him for 2 months. We weren't expecting him to, bat 310 with 15 homers in 2 months. You just need to let the guy develop. I think, we have to give him plenty of more time to develop to be the player that he can be.
Yeah, I think that's something that people overlook, and I'm guilty of this myself, is that they don't have major league breaking pitches in the minor leagues. If you can throw a major league slider accurately, locate it on the outer part of the plate and get it to break consistently and not hang, you're probably not pitching in AAA or AA. You're in the major leagues. At this level, professionally, everybody's got a fastball. So if you can control your breaking ball, somebody's going to give you a shot. And I think that, you're right. A lot of times it's just reps. We saw Volpe make a lot of adjustments, really more so after the Austin Wells conversation than anything else. But that's a good example of how just like one tweak can change a guy's ability. So that begs the question: you're making this trade. What do you do to backfill these guys? Peraza is a big part of this, organization now. I mean, he's your third baseman.
I mean, well, the infield, I really don't think is that much of a problem Peraza-wise. I think, Volpe's at shortstop. Peraza's been playing third base. You can go and put DJ LeMahieu at first base. Rizzo's going to be back at first base. Or you put LeMahieu at third base, Rizzo at first base. And then, Glaber's going to be at second base for at least another year. Who knows if they extend him. But, I'm really not too concerned about their infield depth. The outfield depth, it's, that's been their biggest problem. It's a bit tricky because, you would have Soto in left field, but, center field's kind of a question mark right now. Dominguez isn't going to be back till, who knows, maybe July, August. So I think that's something they address in the free agent market. I've talked about Kevin Kiermaier with Fireside Yankees. I think that makes a ton of sense as a stopgap center fielder, but I really don't think they'll have too much trouble, figuring out how to slot these guys in for the guys they're getting rid of.
I do really, I like Kevin Kiermaier too as an option because I don't want to necessarily get somebody that's going to block Dominguez. I think Spencer Jones is on the way. I think that if you get Soto, you have to look at him more as like a DH / outfielder, so you have to kind of figure out something to do with Stanton too, which I don't know if that's possible at this point. So I feel like the roster is just so discombobulated that it's tough to go out there and make the moves needed, because you got to make a series of moves like for any big name you bring in. If you sign Bellinger, right, that you got to figure out whether he's going to play left field or center field. That blocks either Pereira or Dominguez. And if you want to play him at first base, then what do you do with Anthony Rizzo? You know what I mean? It's just every move for a big lefty bat that they need kind of throws a wrench into the system there.
Yeah. I mean, it really is difficult. I don't think Cody Bellinger makes a ton of sense, but yeah, that's why I think Kiermaier makes a ton of sense. He's a nice stopgap for Dominguez in center field. That's the outfield you want. You want Judge and Wright. You got one of the best hitters in the league. You got Dominguez, a developing superstar, and you got a generational talent in left field. And this is something I wanted to bring up. If they trade for Soto, the first order of business is signing him to an extension, because Soto, I believe he is a Boras client, a Scott Boras client, and Scott Boras clients don't sign extensions in the middle of the season. So, if you're making this trade and you're sending a lot of assets away for this trade, you need to lock this guy down for at least the next 9 to 10 years. He's only 24, I believe. You want to lock this guy down. So that's their first order of business before they figure out, who they're going to fill the spots in.
Yeah, that makes sense, because then you've basically got a locked up outfield for, I know he's not a great defender, but I can deal with his level of defense or his level of offense, right? I mean, I'd even consider shifting Judge over to left field to cover more ground and putting Soto in right field, because it's a shorter field, shorter amount. I know that would piss off the people in the judges' chambers, but it would make more sense, right?
I mean, it might make some sense. I think the Yankees are kind of, Yankee Stadium left field is a nightmare. I think it's probably one of the worst left fields in the league. It's a ton of ground to cover. So that is one of my concerns with Soto. He definitely have to make a huge adjustment there. But I don't think Judge in left field would make a ton of sense, because the Yankees are always, being kind of ginger with Judge, trying to preserve him. So making him cover all that ground in left field just wouldn't make a ton of sense, especially for a guy of his size. We saw how Stanton looked out there.
Right.
It really wasn't great at all.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I had a sound effect for that, but here we go.
We spend $250 billion a year on defense.
Yes, Stanton in the outfield is a nightmare, especially these days, man. How does somebody who is in that kind of physical shape run so slow? I don't understand how that's possible.
I think it's just like, he's just too big of a guy, I think. It's not only he has so much weight to carry and he has such a massive frame, but I think he's also just not as flexible anymore. And as he's gotten older, his legs have just deteriorated. So he's a huge question mark for the next however many years.
So you said you didn't see Bellinger as making a lot of sense, but if they can't get Soto, let's say that San Diego says, well, we're not going to trade him. We acquired him for 3 playoff runs. We're not going to bail before the third one. We're going to try and move some other money around. Then does Bellinger make sense? Because they still need a left-handed bat. And he's the best one available other than Shohei. They're not getting Shohei.
I think, my problem with Bellinger is the contract projections that have been thrown around for him. I think it's been like 6 years, 225 million. That's not something I want the Yankees to dish out right now to, a guy who we aren't too sure of. Yeah, he went to the Cubs and he had a prove it year. He looked great, but I'm not going to throw that much money at a kind of uncertainty. And, the Yankees already with the Rodon contract, the Stanton contract, even the LeMahieu contract is kind of, binding them. So they want to make sure they're spending their money on the right guys. And, just because you can't get a left fielder on the trade or free agent market this offseason, like that doesn't mean you don't need to throw money at the problem. Like I said, I think there's still a lot of time for Everson Pereira. And, if you can't get Soto, honestly, I would not hate, having Everson Pereira, battle it out for the left field spot next year.
What about this guy from Korea, Hoi Jun Lee? I think it's or Jung Hoo Lee. I forget how you say his name. Contact hitting lefty, but there's always that thing when you're coming from a foreign league, it doesn't necessarily project to major league level, right? So a guy could hit 350 in Korea and be a 260 hitter at the major leagues, you know. And so, have you had any thoughts on Lee?
I mean, I haven't done a ton of research on him. I haven't really looked at his tape too much, but the big question mark is how does his bat translate to the major leagues? Because pitching in Korea, pitching overseas, anywhere really is, completely different than when you're getting in the MLB. In the MLB, you have guys throwing, averaging 99, 100 miles per hour on their fastball. I might be mistaken. I don't think that's what they're throwing, overseas. So, and, their pitches probably have a lot more movement over there. That's just one of my observations, but I think he would make some sense, that contact bat would, I think that'd be something a lot of Yankee fans would like right now because, if this guy just doesn't strike out 30% of the time, Yankee fans are going to love him.
All right, we're going to read a quick ad, pay the light bill here. NYY Recaps is sponsored by GameTime, the fastest growing ticket app in the world. You ever used GameTime before, Aiden?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. During the Judge home run race.
Dude, I used it for the game that we went to, on a couple of Fridays ago. Last minute, I just wanted to see what tickets were available. $7 a piece. Got seats in my favorite section, which is 420. And that has nothing to do with marijuana, all you devil's lettuce advocates. It's the best view in the stadium, in my opinion. It's, right above home plate. But you can use GameTime to get last-minute tickets on all your favorite types of events: baseball, other sports, concerts, theater, going to see Jerry Seinfeld in a couple of weeks, going to see the Charles Dickens A Christmas Carol with my wife. 10-year anniversary. Got it through GameTime. Wow. You name it, you can find it on GameTime. Use the code NYY Recaps, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. GameTime. Lowest price on last-minute tickets, guaranteed. All right, we're going to put the regular Yankees highlights on here because we got to get a look at our boys. So how much of the playoffs have you been watching, and what's been standing out to you so far?
I mean, I've pretty much watched almost every playoff game at this point. Not like, sitting down and watching every pitch, but I've definitely had the games on in the background while I've been doing some work. And, this stands out to me every single postseason. The team that out-homers their opponents win games. I'm pretty sure teams that out-homer their opponents this postseason are like 15-2 or something around that. That's how you win postseason games. Yeah. Mash the baseball, hit the ball far, and have pitching that prevents the long ball.
Right. So. Yeah. Less hanging sliders thrown equals less home runs by your opponents as well. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. The Braves, they hit 300 and some odd home runs during the season, and they were just lifeless. I liked the article that you shared the other day. I forget who wrote it, so forgive me, about how it really is a crapshoot because you'd need to basically play a 75-game playoff series to get the projected winner based on who's better, right? And how much fun would that be anyway? Like, if the better team always won, it wouldn't be as much fun. I kind of like that the Phillies upset the Braves, and the Phillies are the ones now turning baseball on its head with all these home runs. So I really do think the playoffs are a crapshoot. So I don't necessarily disagree with Cashman and his philosophy there, but I do think that you got to have a better mix of like general hitters in the play. Like, I like guys who can hit but also hit home runs. Like something like Harper. I think he's perfect because he's a guy who cares about hitting for a high average.
Right. I mean, here's the thing about the playoffs. So statistics, research has shown that in the playoffs, pitchers are turning it up a notch. They're throwing a lot more high velocity fastballs than they do in the regular season. So postseason baseball is defined by high velocity pitching, and it's all about how you hit high velocity pitching. And, that was the Yankees' issue last year. My guy, Ryan Garcia at Fireside Yankees, he wrote an article on it. He found that, as the 2022 team progressed over the season, they started to perform worse and worse against high velocity pitching. And that's why they really bottomed out in August, September, and then in the playoffs. So that's really what the Yankees need to do. They need to find guys that are able to hit high velocity pitching. And I do agree. Well, you need to hit the long ball. You also have to have some productive at bats. I am very tired of the strikeout or bust guys like Stanton, even though he's performed super well in the postseason with us. But yeah, it's really all about hitting high velocity pitching and mashing the baseball.
Is it just me, or is Stanton missing or taking a lot of fastballs now? Like, I feel like he used to be a guy where if you came after him with a fastball, he would punish it. But now it seems like he's either like waiting to get a fastball late in the count, which he never does, or just kind of laying off pitches like right down the middle or swinging through them.
Yeah, honestly, I think I kind of noticed that as well. He was, taking a lot of fastballs, but he just goes up there and he kind of looks like he doesn't have a plan. We've all seen him strike out on a slider low and away a million times at this point. I'm pretty sure his whiff percentage, his swing and miss rates went up a ton. So I think it also came out that his bat speed dropped as well. So he's really, really just been regressing over the past couple of years.
All right. So you are heavily into the analytics, and I know you work with Ryan, who knows that stuff a lot better than I do. Admittedly,
a lot better than me, too.
Yeah. Admittedly, I'm a guy who I just watch the game and I look for, like, if he's such a good hitter, why doesn't he hit good? Like that type of thing, So what are some things that might surprise people like me that don't necessarily read every column on, hit effects and spin rates and all launch angles and all these other things that I'm butchering right now?
Well, I mean, I honestly don't think, what we know about analytics as in the public isn't too surprising. You hit the ball hard, good things are going to happen, and that's been the Yankees' philosophy. I think the application of some of their philosophies and analytics hasn't probably been there, but that's really what it is to me. It's just hit the ball hard. There's a lot of stats I like to look at offensively. I'm a big FanGraphs guy over Baseball Reference. WRC plus, that's how you determine if a guy is a league average bat or not. I also like to look at Baseball Savant. You look at the player pages, they got, blue or red bubbles based on what percentile they are. In a statistic, average exit velocity weighted on base average. That's a stat I would really recommend people look at, is weighted on base average, because it's like batting average, but it doesn't count a single the same as a home run. So you're really getting an overall look of, how good a hitter really is.
I'm going to share on my screen Jason Dominguez's limited StatCast stuff. It's off the charts. I mean, he obviously doesn't qualify, but I mean, what do you see when you look at this guy?
Red means good. That's all I can say. Red means good, and he demolishes the baseball. That barrel percentage is a really good sign. The hard hit percentage is a really good sign. One thing that I think is super underrated about him, you look at his chase percentage right there. He's a very, very disciplined hitter, even though he's only 21, 22 years old. And that's not something you see out of, prospects right out of the gate. So his discipline and his ability to lay off pitches out of the zone has been absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are paying more attention to the sweet spot too. That's something that they've added into Baseball Savant. I think they added it mid-season this year. It wasn't in there last year. And it's something that he does really well on. It's something that Volpe got better at as the year went on, but he's still whiffing too much. I feel like that's going to be a stat that I want to see. I want to see not just who makes contact, but who makes contact on the good part of the bat, because that's generally going to lead to hard contact, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that, and you want to look at barrel percentage too. How much are they, really hitting the baseball like hard? So you want to look at sweet spot percentage, you want to look at their barrel percentage, and of course their average exit velocity.
All right. Well, thank you for the enlightening talk. If you had to make, I guess, 3 targets, what would be your targets for the Yankees this winter? Who would be your three guys? And then I'll give you mine, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, obviously, we talked about him already. Juan Soto makes a ton of sense. That fills the biggest offseason need by an absolute landslide. I think Yoshinobu Yamamoto makes a ton of sense. We talked about him too. Their level of interest is there. If you don't sign him, I also wouldn't hate a Jordan Montgomery reunion. I think he makes a lot of sense. One guy that I've been keeping an eye on with my friends is Brendan Donovan of the St. Louis Cardinals, utility guy. Pretty much plays anywhere in the infield. He also plays left field and right field. He can hit too. He's a lefty bat, so he would fare well in Yankee Stadium. He had 115 OPS plus this year, 787 OPS, 284 average. I think, a lot of Yankee fans would like that. They want to see more contact and getting on base. 365 OBP, and he did hit, 11 homers this year. That's not, anything, amazing, but that's kind of what you want out of a utility guy.
I'm going to pull up Brendan Donovan on the screen here in just a second. So I like him because of the on-base ability, but I have a tough time seeing the Cardinals moving him without a lot of different suitors. I mean, like you said, red means good, and this guy's got a lot of red in the system here. Obviously, batting value better than fielding value, which is odd for a utility guy. But I like him. I think my three, and I know the Yankees need a lot of offense. I think I would go for the classic: improve the run prevention and try and coach up the offense a little bit. So Yamamoto and Jordan Montgomery for the rotation, and I'd probably sign Bellinger because I don't want to trade all my prospects. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But sometimes, it's one of those moves where I would just kind of risk it. Just from what I've seen from him as a hitter this year, and I'll pull up his StatCast stuff too. Like he's just almost off the charts in terms of what the metrics say about him. And I'm sorry, it's being slow, but I watch him play a game, and I don't see a guy who's trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark every time. I see a guy who's shortening up with two strikes. And look at that spray chart. I mean, he hits the ball line to line. He's got power to all fields. Only 28 years old this year. And like I said, would not cost you a bunch of prospects. I'd have no trouble giving him a 7-year deal. Look, I know that it's risky because of what he did with the Dodgers, but when you look at how he turned it around, I mean, confidence has got to be through the roof coming into Yankee Stadium, seeing that short right field porch, seeing a place where his dad won a World Series. You figured he'd be comfortable there, could learn from his dad. Hey, how do you live in New York? I don't know. I think my three guys would be Bellinger, Yamamoto, and Montgomery, and then you just hope that Dominguez comes back, plays center field. You play Bellinger in left when Rizzo's ready to leave. You slide Bellinger over to first base. Spencer Jones takes over in left, and then you've got a nice young left field and center field, and then Judge obviously holding down right field for a while. So that solidifies your outfield, and then you have a first baseman who makes $25 million a year. You have Giambi again if he Giambi wasn't bad though. Giambi, he was the steroids were a thing, but I liked having. Yeah, the defense was not great. I think Bellinger would be better defensively at first base than Giambi would be, but I don't know. That's just the way I would do it if I were running things. You think that's enough to get it done?
Like I said, I'm not a huge Bellinger guy. I'm not ready to make that type of financial commitment when they already have, so many headaches of a contract with Rodon, Stanton, LeMahieu. I think they really the Yankees want to control their destiny more now, and they want to make sure they're putting their assets into the right investments.
Yeah. I hit a button and doubled myself on there. Hey, appreciate you joining tonight, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It's kind of fun. It's always great to talk things.
And we'll have you back, obviously, this season, and hopefully it's a better season for the. But look, first we got to get through this hot stove, and I think no matter what, it's going to be a fun winter.
It's going to be a fun winter, acquisition-wise. I think so. I would caution about people thinking that the Yankees are just going to clear house in the front office. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're just going to be changing their philosophies. But regardless, it's going to be a very interesting offseason.
All right. Appreciate it, everybody. Like and subscribe. Go visit the shop, NYYRecaps.shop. All that good stuff. And we'll see you next time.
Ball game over.
Most impressive.